Mate, let's do it. Harry Singha, thanks for dropping by.
My pleasure.
All the way from the UK. Not for the podcast, but you know what I mean.
No, dude, I came for you.
Dedication, love it. Mate, I wanted to know, like, obviously people see you as, like, you know, someone that's on purpose, you know, with what you do with serving and speaking, but what was your journey, brother? Like, was it always that way for you?
Yeah, when people say the word on purpose, I always think, I think uniquely for everybody, I think all of us, universally, our purpose is to serve. How you serve, that's the bit. And even on the plane coming here, there was some lady going on to Thailand from Dubai, and she's like, I'm going to Thailand. And she had purpose written on her, like, wrist.
As a tattoo?
So yeah, it's like, as a tattoo.
Wow.
And she was, like, listening to something. I was waiting for her to finish, and I just said to her, like, do you mind me asking what's yours? And I thought she was going to go, what do you mean? I was like, she goes, oh, yeah, it's a great story. But she said, my purpose at the moment is rescuing elephants in a sanctuary. And she said, at the moment. And I felt so at one with her, because too many of us go, what's our purpose? I feel I have a purpose that is like, that's it, it's there. But purpose to me is like, as long as you're serving, if you're saving elephants right now, that's your purpose, you're serving. But for me, I just believed that all the challenges I had as a child were all moulding me and creating me for what I was doing. And so for me, when people say, hey, why is Harry Singha serving young people? Why is he serving women? Why is he doing this? If they look at what my foundation does, when it comes to purpose of serving, I was the kid that went through domestic violence, saw my mum getting attacked 3-4 times a week. My dad was alcoholic. But I was like, I speak with people on stages, I work with people in the mental health field, and people talk about suicide, depression. I was like, I never ever, and I don't know whether I'm, like, I probably am in a minority, but I've never ever even considered taking my life. And people go, look at all the shit that happened to you in your life. And I go, and people will say to me, how do you have so much love in your heart when you experience so much shit? I said, it's because I experienced that shit, right? And so for me, purpose isn't a sense of like, oh, I got to do this stuff. And I think I started what I was doing, helping people. I was doing it at 10, 11 years old, just because I thought everybody else had shit going on. But when I got to 15, 16, and I was already professionally being paid to go and do training, I didn't call it speaking then, I was doing it to be busy because I'd left home at 15. And I just thought, the more I could stay busy, I don't have to deal with my own shit. And it wasn't until I took care of myself and healed myself, then I started doing it because I wanted to. And then I got to a place where it was like, it's a bit like, you know, if you're financially free, it doesn't mean you stop earning money. And if you're retired, it doesn't mean you stop serving. So I was like, this helping people thing is a good thing, right? But exponentially, I was able to help even more people. And then when I got to a place of doing because I wanted to, I built service around everything I did. And then the whole speaking journey was, I was training people at the age of like 15, 16 all the way through, and then meeting some of the top bods in the speaking one. I was thinking, like, speaking is serving. So, yeah, purpose for me is simply that, helping as many people as possible to serve. I call it doing good now. Doing good authentically and consistently. Because there's too many that do good and go, look at me, right? And I thought, if you serve authentically, and people reword what that means. Authentic means it's you, it's what you do. This is how you want to serve. Whether it's God's calling or whatever, you're just happy doing it, it's got to be something you want to do. If you do it consistently, then you're my person.
I love that.
Because if you do it consistently, it becomes who you are, right? And then for me, when other people ask me what my purpose, the last sort of sentence to it is, just like many people who believe in something bigger than us, I just feel my purpose is to raise the consciousness of many people as possible. Simply, that's it.
Harry, I love that. Mate, I've also gone through lots of violence in my childhood, and healing for me has always been a thing that's always been a bit difficult, right? So for you, like, what did you do to heal yourself from your trauma and change your perspective of how you live through that today?
That has a presupposition I'm already healed, right? I always say to people, it's an ongoing journey. And I will say this, I say to people, helping people and serving people was always a way that I feel saved me. still helping and serving people is a way that I heal. But the moment you can start to change the meanings, you know, when I wrote my book called I wrote a book called WTF's Going On, right? Like, what the fuck's going on? Because that was the question I had in my head as a kid.
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on? When I made it as a speaker and in this world, they go write a book. And I wrote that book of how to turn your worst days into best days. And the key point on it was I created a system called LIGHT, Light. And the L, the first step in the process was you got to let it out. And I say to people, one of the biggest challenges we have on the planet is called emotional constipation. We're holding on to shit, right? And one of the biggest challenges I always felt I had, and therefore one of the ways I healed was with all the shit that was going on in my house, no one knew. My brothers and sisters, we don't talk about it, right? We didn't talk about it. And when I shut the door of my house to go to school, it was time to partay. I'd go to school to have fun. No one knew what was going on. When I left home at 15, it's because my uncle tried to kill me. And social services in the school felt I was at risk. No one knew that it was my mum that was at risk. So I held on to stuff, never told anyone stuff. And I feel that many of us hold on to shit.
Yeah.
And if you hold on to shit, and this is why I like to use the word constipation, and as gross as it might sound when I say the word shit and all the rest of it, when you hold on to shit, there's a medical term for it. It's called constipation. Yeah. And when you're constipated, that shit's still there. I'm going to go deeper in it, right? And where's it going? The shit's still inside you. It's going to come out at some point, whether you like it or not. So I started saying that L in Let It Go was all about you can let it out slowly, you can let it out quickly. Either way, it's going to be painful. And then I say to people, I always thought let it out meant I had to go and tell someone what was happening. And I say now, energetically, back then, like 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have breath work, right? I wasn't aware of it. Of course it was there, right? But it meant like, I've got to come and tell you, look, this and this happened to
like
me.
therapy,
and then I've got to release it. And I was trained as a therapist as a teenager, right? And there was like gestalt therapy and you talk it through. I always felt like shit talking it through because I felt like the pain that I had numbed would start coming about. And it was healing, but I always say that first step was let it out energetically. You can run it out. You can sing it out. You can dance it out. Whatever it was that you hadn't said. And this is how I probably ended up being guided and speaking. I found my voice, not just because I told people. It's I started to, I was at a Tony Robbins event as a young guy, one of the first things, and he did an exercise where it said, everybody close your eyes and put your hand on your heart. And one of my first events, I didn't close my eyes. I was writing down, close your eyes. I was like taking what he said. I was going to go and serve other young people with it, right? I used to go to events. Like if you had an event and I was a kid and I felt we could help other kids, I'd come to your event, I'd learn everything so I could go and teach it. That's how I was a great learner. Learn so to teach, right? And then one of the American trainers at the time came and go, dude, close your eyes. I was like, holy shit, I closed my eyes. I go, what did he say? I thought he said, think of something that something that's great in your life. And I remember closing my eyes. I couldn't think of anything great. Because it was one of the first times because I just go to bed at night, sleep. I'd be like helping people go to sleep. I would never take care of any of my own shit. And I remember going, what's great, man? I couldn't think of anything great. And in that like 5 or 10 minutes, it felt like an hour. It was like, all I could remember was the stuff I hadn't told anybody. It was like, what's great in my life? And something shit popped up. Like my dad whacking me in this ear. And I'm saying, what'd you hit me for? Because the way you're looking at me. And stuff that I'd never told anybody. I was like, man. And all of a sudden, Tony's like, share with a partner. And he didn't say, think of something that's great in your life. He just said, what are you grateful for? But in my head, I was thinking, and I was like, and the American dude goes, and I'm crying, and he goes to me, it's okay, buddy. I'm like, fuck you, it's not okay, bro. I remember Tony gave us a meal break, and I remember sitting up against a wall in the big hall at this convention centre in London, and I was thinking, I'm going to write a page of what's great. If I don't write down what's great, I'm not going back in the room. And I remember, like, I'm alive. I was writing stuff like that. My writing was getting bigger just to fill the page, right? But I remember thinking back then, and that's what led me on to how I took care of myself in that following weeks, was I knew I wasn't taking care of myself because I didn't have anything that was great. So if I let go I had to change the meanings, come up with greater meanings, and I went for a whole process. I can go through that process with you, but I think one of the biggest ways on healing is to release energy, right? And we are so blessed now that there's so many people talking about different ways to release energy, breath work, having faith, so having faith is one thing, but I always say one of the biggest things you can do isn't to just speak it. It's just to listen and have a communication without speaking, because then you're releasing. Like, if someone's hurt you, we could communicate them without them being here. And they go, that's bullshit. I said, you already communicate with the person that hurt you every day, even though they're not here. Yeah. They're out on a fun fair having the time of their life, and you're flooding poisons in your body, thinking about it. And my dad died when I was 18. I went straight home. And people go, is that when it got better? I said, no, I was still angry. I didn't actually turn my life around until I was in my early 20s. I was just angry, but I didn't deal with it. And then they said, when did you forgive your dad? I said, when I forgave myself. Because I always blamed everything that was happening to me to that kid at 15 who left home and left his mum. Because when no one knows, you can't tell them, right? So I used to blame myself. And in the end, when I got to a place where I said to the 15-year-old me, everything you went through is not in vain. Because I look at all the great things that are in my life, because it took a while for me to think there was anything great. But that's the time when the real healing took place. That's when it happened.
Wow, Harry, what a story. So how did that transition into speaking? Was it straight after that, or?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. People think about speaking. Technically, when I look back now, me going to children's homes, me going to conferences, me setting up young people's projects at the age of 16, I was learning like the professionals, teachers, social workers were going on a thing called child protection training. And I was demanding to be put on this training. They go, you're just a kid. And they go, you have to be a teacher, a social worker, what we call statutory services. I said, listen, I'm going to just lay it down for you. I am working with young people, and I'm asking for you to give me the training about protecting young people. I'll pay for it. And they go, no, you can't do it. I said, I'm going to tell the newspaper that you're, and they let me in.
Wow.
Suddenly I'm training with police officers, teachers, social workers, all statutory services. They're providers. And I'm the only person that's non-statutory, and I'm getting the same child protection training. And one thing came from the training: why are you teaching all these adults about protecting children? We need to, and anytime I say we need to, if I said Adam, we need to, my brain, God telling me that you're talking to yourself, right? Yeah. If I tell anybody else you need to do something. So I was like, okay, that'll be my first main training. I took all this, what's now called safeguarding. I used to go to schools and teach young people about child protection training. But I wouldn't say I was a speaker. I was a trainer. And then as I started getting into the whole coaching world and so on, I could see speaker coaches. I was speaking. I got, I was blessed and guided to meet people like Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra at such a young age. And I was never in awe of them. I was just like, what you got is amazing. I'll read your books and so on, and I'll go and help other people with it. I remember saying to Deepak, if you don't have anything for young people, I'm going to take your stuff and I'm going to just use it. And he wrote some book called Fire in the Heart. It was about a kid about a story going through a spiritual. It wasn't for kids. So I remember for 2 years at University of East London, on a Tuesday evening, I was doing a session called Unpack Deepak. So I was taking all of his work and just sharing it with people, right?
Cool.
So I never saw it as that. But the speaking part, when you got companies like, people like Success Resources, Richard Tanner and that will say that Harry Singha was the guy that helped them become like #1 event company, because timing was of the essence when they came into the European market and they could, get that Tony Robbins deal and all the rest of it. And for me at that point, I started to see all the speakers on these circuits. I had people that I was coaching one-to-one to become coaches and mentors and do good. But speaking was something I was training them.
Yeah.
And then I saw how bad the industry was with speaker trainers.
Interesting. So
for the last 15 or 20 odd years, I was like, I'm going to do something about that. And then I didn't want to take myself away. And then I realized I positioned myself in the brand in the speaking circuit. And that got me into proximity with a lot of other people, so I could still carry on doing the youth service stuff behind the scenes. It's, in terms of speaking, I'd always been speaking. I never had a challenge with speaking. I didn't think I was any good. People used to think I was brilliant, but I'd be walking to those places like that swan running at a million miles an hour, sweating, and you'd come off it. I mean, I've always said to people, I've taken some of the best speakers and said, right, come and speak at a youth program. And they're like, of course. They get there and they shit themselves.
Why?
Because young kids don't give a shit who you are. Right? You go in, you're trained with adults, and you're there, and you're like, you're delivering your... But the kids are looking at you like this. And I find what they do is they overcompensate, and they think, I'm not getting through. And they come up with like extra slides and all of this stuff, and you're like, what are you doing? Because they will take no prisoners. And I think some of the best speakers, they've learnt their craft by coming and speaking in front of a couple of hundred young people who don't give a shit who you are. Even Tony did the same. Tony went to his own youth program, 2002, and he struggled.
Wow.
But Tony doesn't really define himself as a speaker
Of
anyway, right?
course, yeah.
But I always say, if you can hit that crowd with a bunch of people who don't give a shit who you are, and it's like, you need to add value to my life in the time here, that's where your craft is today. So, yeah.
That's amazing, Harry. So what did you learn from having close proximity with like Tony and Deepak and Richard? Because you were with them quite closely a long time ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, still to this day, I'm still close with all. It's the thing is this. I don't know whether it's definitely not arrogance in me. I always feel like I'm a humble person, but I never get starstruck with anybody.
Yeah, that's good.
To me, if God, universe has put me on a path, it's not my path. It's something far bigger than me. And even when I spoke on Tony's stage at UPW, people would always come back, you coach me. I'm going to model you. How are you going to get there? How did you get there? And I look at people and I remember when one guy was at UPW and a whole bunch of his mentees with him, and I'd just come off the UPW stage and he's telling everyone, I know Harry Singha. Come on, Harry, come and speak to my guys. I told them in 2-3 years I want to be speaking on Tony's stage. What's one thing you can tell everybody that you can... I looked at him and I said, bro, are you in a relationship? He's looking at me like, what? He goes, no. I said, if you go in a relationship, would you say to your partner, in 1 year, 2 years, we're going to do this, this, this? I said, how long are you going to go into the relationship for? He goes, I don't know what you mean. I said, in my head, I was like, that's clear. So I said to him, are you willing to wait 18 years to have your slot on Tony's stage? He said, come on, bro, we can speed up this thing. We can do modelling and stuff. I said, I didn't say that. I said, are you willing to wait 18 years? And he quickly brushed me off because now he's looking embarrassed. One of his team followed me out and said, Harry, I didn't get what was happening there. I said, bro, I never put it in my plan to go and speak on Tony's stage. I spoke on Tony's stage, the first event I was at. I won Simon Says when Tony used to run it. Oh, wow. I was on stage in front of 12,000 people playing Simon Says. He was making me do the most craziest shit on the stage in front of everybody. And I was just focused on whatever he says. I'm not playing this game. And then when I walked off the stage, he said to people, model this young man. I took that as a testimonial, right? And it was like, so I'd say to people that when I met these people that other people were saying, that I was like, if you have something of value that can help other people, then I feel like you're a gift from God. Yeah. But I'm not going to make you the most important person. But I always had one strategy. My goal was to add more value to them than what they gave me. Because I knew what I was taking from them. Systems, tools, this, that, they were opening doors and so on. So when it came to, if you ask Richard, he will tell you, Richard Run will say, Harry gave us so much and not asked for anything in return. When you look at Tony Robbins, I've never taken a single dollar in the last 30 years of being involved with Tony Robbins and his foundation, not taking a single dollar. Wow. Because in my head, I said, you gave me a fortune I could never repay. And when I was doing things for Robbins or Robbins Research, I would sign a contract per event. I have to read that 7-page document, sign it. I've never signed a contract with any organisation that makes me this. I'm free. But what I've learned from those guys was a level of standard, of service, quality, and I'm always interested in the human being on the other side. Right? And Tony Robbins got enough haters as well as he's got as admirers.
Yeah.
And people are always trying to put me on one side or the other. And I just turn around and go, if I know at their core it's about service, that's all I'm interested in. Because who am I to judge all the rest of their flaws and so on? Right? And so, yeah, it was really a case of with people, even now, like even coming here, there's like loads of speakers will turn up at events. And I see people adding value to people for whatever it is. But I'm interested in who's the man, who's the woman, who are these people behind them, and what are they doing? Like when people go, I want to work with you one-to-one. I was like, thank you. I'd like, what do you mean? You just want to work with me? Right? Or is it you want to achieve something?
Yeah.
And they tell me what they want to achieve, and then I say to them, what you can do with it? If I help you to speak, what you can do with it? They go, I'm going to 10x this, that, the other. And I was like, cool. Anything else? And in my head, I'm like, I'm not the right person for them. I could help them. But why would I take myself away from my wife, my kids, and everything else I do? Because I want a return on investment that I'm putting in them.
Yeah.
And a return on investment for me is how you 10x in the impact to humanity. Because tomorrow's never promised. Right? I'm like, if I could spend time with person A or person B, and person B says I'm going to go and make an impact on a certain group of people, whether it's any living thing, whether humans, plants, whatever, I don't mind. If they're doing that, then I'm a lazy guy. Well, I don't have to do it. They're doing it. Right? So if I help you and you go, I'm going to help X, Y, Z, I'm like, click, help him, because I don't have to do it. You know, because it's
powerful.
That's when it links to purpose.
It's powerful, Harry.
100%.
You mentioned God a lot and faith. Has that always been in your life?
No. Growing up with my dad, I remember it was like my dad went through so many religions. Like my family is of Indian origin and Punjabi Sikhs.
Okay.
Right? So, and I was an Indian kid growing up in a white community. My mum gave me the name Harry at birth. But that goes way back. I've got two elder sisters, one younger brother, all born in the UK, London. And my mum had two girls. And she told me later that, like, she went to India to have the son. She was literally saying, you know, life had no meaning and whatever. She told me all this later. And suddenly she goes to India, bang, has this son. And then brings him back here. And she's the grounding, gave me the name, my full name, Hardeep Harry Singha. And she gave me Harry because she said, you're going to be growing up in the UK. I want to do this, that, and the other. Most Asians have nicknames. That was my name she gave me. And I remember I never ever liked my dad. Even from like 2, 3, my earliest memories was seeing him attack my mum. I always think he's like some monster. And then I didn't want to be anything that he was.
Yeah.
So at some point we became Christians. And what did that mean? We'd go to church. And my only memories of church was we'd go there and some lady in front would give out lollipops. And I remember I was told I couldn't eat. I put a lollipop in my pocket. It stuck. Those are the memories I had. So I was like, this is pretty cool. I just loved being with people that my dad had to pretend to be good, right? So and we did that. And then it was like, because we had gone through some phase of being something else, the church was just down our road. I was like, am I a Christian? No one sees me as a Christian. I'm not a Christian. I'm going to church. And then I was like, as I was at school, I used to have a friend who started dating. I said, whoever you date, you change your religion. He'd be like, if he was dating a Muslim girl, he'd stop eating pork. If he dated a Hindu girl, he'd stop eating beef. And I started saying to him, dude, I'm more of a Muslim than you are. I'm more a Christian than you are, and so on. And I moved away from religion to just... Sikhism was still there because it was our culture. You know, you do your weddings and your funerals and all the rest of it in the Sikh culture. But I was an Indian kid in a white community, and everybody wanted to know who you are, where you're from, what your faith is, and all the rest of it. And people used to say, what's your faith? And I'd say myself. And I used to think I was an arrogant asshole, and I'd say myself. And then I realised there was something bigger. And for many, many years, I'd be like, what do I call this thing? I used to call it light. I used to call it source. And in the last decade or so, I got so comfortable with saying God. Didn't have to even be a religious aspect to it. And then I did realise the stuff I was saying as a kid, I was saying I'm more Christian than most Christians. I'm more Muslim than most Muslims. I'm more Hindu than most Hindus, right? And it wasn't just about the cultural part. It was the part about saying that there's something far bigger than me. And I don't go there for something. I go there to listen.
Yeah.
I'll go there to say, what can I do for you? And I live a life of what I call 60-40. 60%, I will do what's in the plan. I'll do the hustle. But I will leave 40% of resources, time, money, energy, calendar, to let God come in and do what I can't possibly imagine doing. And that's it. So I wake up, the first thing I say is, with God, all things are possible. And I use the word called energy. And energy, I spell ENERJI. And this happened about a decade ago. I remember being in India. A whole bunch of Indian kids was on a youth program. And I'd always start off and I'd say to everybody, like, when we're Indians, we go to see our aunties and uncles. We say Auntie G, Uncle G, Nanny G. And I was saying to these kids, who's the most important G? And they all say, Mummy G. And I said, no, energy. And within it was like a 3-day event. Within the first break, my AV team, I have this guy, Alex, he's amazing. And the session I did straight after the next break, he had already created a logo with the word energy, with the G as the power sign. And he'd put and I say, where's the highest energy? Which team's got the highest energy? And he put this logo up there. And I was like, cool, he's really good at his stuff. And I was like, I like this. He goes, yeah, we should have it as your brand. And I was like, But there was something about energy, right? As in G. And I spent many years going, G means respect. So I was like, okay, I know what G means. That's why I changed the word ENERJI. And I used to just say, respect your highest energy. Whatever you want to call it. God, universe, light, love, source. That's you at your highest energy. And if you believe in God, God is within you. If you believe in the universe is within you. And it wasn't until about 4 years ago, I kid you not, I think it's lockdown, right? I was sitting there going, what the hell does the word ener mean? ENER. I never even asked myself the question. What the hell? Because I've written this word for so long, ENERJI. Do you know what it says? Are you aware what the word ener is?
No idea.
Holy shit.
What is that?
The word ener in the dictionary is the highest individual or component of an ecosystem. I mean, that is God. That is energy. And I'm like, get shivers now. For these years, I'm saying respect your highest energy literally meant if you are doing it as God does, if you are doing it as the universe does, that's you in your highest energy. So I wake up in the morning and say, with God, with energy, all things are possible. And I am energy. The only thing that happens in my life is based on what is the engine that's driving it, what energy I'm in right now. And people can carry on talking about manifestation and law of attraction. I'm just like, if you can act at your highest energy, whatever the result is, that's the result that you're supposed to be having in that moment. So, yeah, when it comes to faith, as a kid, I used to have faith in myself because back then I was like in that Tony Robbins type thing. I am the voice.
Yeah.
I'm responsible for this shit.
Step up.
But that brought me enough pain. And I still say that to this day. People who are in that mode of, I will fix this, are the ones at the highest level of risk of depression and anxiety and burnout. When you realize that some things don't need fixing, and then you realize I'm part of this. Right? And that's when you can start, like people talk about now, that it becomes something for you. But I always said that there's that other level where it comes through you. So all the stuff that happened to me in my past, even though, like you could see that when I was sharing it, the suffering, the pain will still be there when I talk about it, but there's no more suffering. And the reason it shifted was everything that happened to me, I now know happened for me, but more importantly, it happened through me so I can help other people. But the highest level of it is when it's as you. So what that means is if I wake up every morning and just grateful that I've got another morning, and therefore the more I can spend time, I say 60-40 because I'm way off the highest level. I'm not like, I remember there was a time where I think most people do it, 90% do this and then trust, faith, right, with the 10%. And we always went with the 20-80 rule and the 80-20 rule. And then I realized, no, I've got to put more trust and faith into something bigger than me, coming up with things that I possibly can't imagine. And when I look back at all the things in my life, I never put a strategic plan to meet the girl that became my wife and is my greatest gift on the planet. That was never in a business plan. That was never in a life plan. I had planned like at this age, at 21, I'm going to save this money. I'm going to buy a house at 23. I'm going to get married at this age. I'm going to have kids at this age. Things happen literally 2 days. But I didn't put who I was going to meet.
Yeah.
And I always realised that those things, and you look at your journey as well, there are the things that you have in your life, they weren't the things that you may have said, I want this, that and the other, but how you got to it, it was something far bigger than this.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and that's why when people say let's have the question of the faith, I'm like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's spend days talking about it, right?
The most important part, you know.
Yeah, but this is, people always say, oh, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in this, and I go, do you have faith in yourself? They go, yeah. I go, well, who is you? And tell me what was the greatest things in your life, and tell me, did you make that happen? Then they start looking at it and go, well, where'd that come from? And I think society has made us trying to pigeonhole. What do you call it? Do you call it God? Do you call it Allah? Do you call it this? I'm like, I don't care what you call it. Because if you genuinely believe that whatever that source is, that reflection of you in your highest possible form, it's beyond a name. It's energy. And I mean the word energy with G-Y as well as G-I. J-I. But yeah, 100%. That's why I'm more attracted. Like, you know, when we were supposed to meet, say, I wanted to come meet you, not just because of who you are and what you're doing, who you're hanging around with. Blah, blah. It was, I knew you as a guy of faith.
Yeah.
And what that meant was, there's something far bigger driving you, and there's something far bigger that you'll be able to do and add impact with. You know, and then the guys like Ryan and that are here. There's so many people teaching sales and stuff. I was like, you know, these are the guys that I know. Yeah. That it's about being the man, it's being the father, being all of those things and so on. When you look at who, I go to Egypt and then I go to UAE, who are the guys that I'm going to, what you want to look at, who are the guys that I'm going to serve with? Rather than Harry's on a tour and he's doing this, that and the other. Those are the people that, they're brothers for life. I've got people all around the world. I mean, one of my greatest assets was investing in relationships. And I will never ever, I still pinch myself. I can go anywhere in the world and there's someone not wants to, actually would feel insulted if I don't have them come and pick me up from the airport and live at their house and do this and so on. And then you think, where does that come from? It literally comes from you being able to connect with those people that know that there's something far bigger than all of us. So yeah, and that question doesn't usually come up on a podcast. Harry, tell us about faith.
I think it's the most important part. It really is.
That's it. 100%.
What do you think, Harry? With public speaking, there's normally a big fear around it, right? People think it's a fear around public speaking. How can you help people overcome that fear? And is it fear of public speaking, or is it a fear of something else? The first thing is, it's like one of the things I'm going to talk about at this conference coming up. I'm going to talk about engaging. And I always say one of the big limitations about engaging is some of us are conditioned that there's a community that's hard to engage. So the moment you put a label on, imagine me and you are going to go to Brazil, and you say, Harry, those people there, they're hard to engage. That's it. It's over. The game's over for us already. Because if we think it's hard to engage, we're going to overcompensate. Of course.
We're going to go there and go, and I'm going to start speaking Spanish or Mexican, Brazilian, Portuguese, whatever language I think it is, right? I'm going to try, and they're like, hello, right? So I always say there is some misconceptions that have already killed most people before they start. First one, the fear of public speaking is complete bullshit. And when I say that, I'm not saying it to be arrogant or anything. It's a diagnosis that people are putting on themselves. Yeah. So it's a bit like someone coming to their general practitioner, GP, doctor, whatever you call it, and say, hey, doc, I got an infection, I want antibiotics. Any reputable doctor or GP is not going to go, here you go, here's a prescription, off you go. They're going to go, let me check. Because who are you to know you got an infection? Yeah. And if you got an infection, then maybe you might need antibiotics. But if it's a bacterial thing, it's not antibiotics, it's you need a different treatment. So here's what's happening. There are people who think that they have a fear of public speaking. And those people who are driven by significance, who can't do anything in little means, they want to be extreme, they have a phobia. right? And it's called glossophobia. We've got a name for it. And 95% of people who say that they have a fear of public speaking are misdiagnosing themselves. And they're going to practitioners who will gladly take their money and prescribe them with something for a condition that they don't have. And we live in a world where they say the number one fear on the planet is public speaking. And I'm like, holy shit. People have some issues when speaking to groups. But when we make it clear that in my definition, it's a fear of public shaming, and I just call it that just to jar a bunch of people, because I use it because of my story. My dad used to curse me with so many different things, but there was one that pissed my mum off. And I used to think to myself, we're from East London. There's some really coarse curses that we can have. But my dad used to call me Bear Shut 'em. And my mum would freak out. And I'd look at my mum and go, he calls me bastard, this, that. When he says bear shut 'em simply means you have no shame. I couldn't give a shit. Probably I had no shame. I was the so-called black sheep of the family, right? But I could never understand why if someone said bear shut 'em, everyone would freak out. And in my culture, I realised how important shame was. So if someone calls you bear shut 'em, that's like, you're the Antichrist type thing. That was the level, right? But in my head, I always think as a kid, what are you talking about? The guy that's beating up my mum and beating the shit out of me is telling me I've got no shame. There's a disconnect here. Roll on 20 odd years later, I'm the guy that tells speakers to be bear shut 'em. And I said, what does that mean? When you walk on a stage, are you worried about what people think your hair looks like, what your nose is too big, your accent? What's all that about? If you're on a stage, you're on a stage to serve. And if you've got something that can help one person's life in that room, then go for it. But if you're going to stand there and go, oh, about me, something has happened in your life that's made you not want to go back and experience it again. And many people that have experienced adversity are in some sort of survival mode, and they've got some emotional constipation. And what that means is, oh, what if they know something about me? And I was go, what do you call someone who has nothing to be ashamed of? That's called bear shut 'em. That should be your holy grail. That should be like, that's a target, right? And it's like, we all have things that we think are our skeletons and so on. I'm like, yeah, cool. But don't call it an infection. Don't call it fear of public speaking. So I have some issues that I feel I'm going to be judged. I might have had rejection in my past. I might have had something where I'm feeling maybe not so authentic. And this is where that whole authenticity comes into it. I'm not a big fan of everybody going on stages and just sharing their whole story. That's stage therapy. That's for you. I'm more interested in you sharing the parts of your story that add value and sensitize the message that they need to hear for their story. So I always say to people, when it comes to public speaking and fear of public speaking, first, don't label it as that. If you feel you have glossophobia, if you feel you have a phobia of speaking, like you are convulsing when you go on or even think about going on a stage, then go and see a mental health practitioner. Go and ask them what that is. They're not going to be a public speaking coach that you need to see. Go and see a mental health practitioner and say, when I'm in groups, I literally cannot function. And address some of those things there. Let it out. Basically, it's that, release that energy, right? But then for the rest of them, it's just a concern. Where's that concern come from? And then it leads to everything I say about the whole world-class speaker system. People want confidence when it comes to speaking. I say there's 3 areas. One, what is your content? If you know your content and you structure it in a way that can get that whole message out, you will increase your confidence. 2, the delivery part. If you learn some skills, tools, strategies and so on and how to engage and communicate with people, your confidence will go through the roof. And then the third one, I always call it monetize your message. But it isn't about monetizing. I used to just say to people, can I show you how to make money as a speaker? And just use the money to do good with it, because there's money to be made, right? But the real thing was, in that part, it's about learning how to influence, how to get people to do stuff and so on, right? You need to know those, whether you're selling a product or you're selling hope or you're getting young kids to put their guns down and pick up pencils. you're still selling something, right? So it's about influence. So I said, if you know those three things, I guarantee your confidence is going to go through the roof. And if you say, my confidence in public speaking is not high, it's like going to the doctor and saying, oh, I've got a cough.
Yeah.
What can you do for me? Not, I got an infection.
Yeah.
And many of us are conditioned in this world we live in where if we've got something, I've got that. Okay, so I don't have the responsibility to do anything. Oh, that's my reason. Oh, now I could just tell everybody.
Yeah.
But that's why I always say it's bullshit in that sense. And then there are things you can do, but the first thing you've got to do is first assess the person where they're at. And I always say my prescription would be all three of those things. The challenge I've got in the speaking industry is too many people are going, I'm lacking confidence, and they go for the help me build my confidence. And then you've got other people going, oh, I'm struggling with making money, so they just show them how to make money. And then they've left one of the other criteria out. Yeah. And that's why you'll only see a few people actually make it. And I don't mean make it just financially. Make it to be the speaker that they want to be. And if they're a person of faith, in their highest energy, they can be anything they want to be. And it's like, that's what got me into going, I want to be in the market as a speaker coach, and you know, it's about giving. I literally created that program, was like, here is 60 minutes on how to overcome your inverted commas fear of public speaking. To go, just give this to everybody. But here's the thing: who's taking it? People who are speaker coaches are taking my training. That's like someone who has a fear of public speaking. The last thing they're going to is just somewhere to learn how to do public speaking. It's like, you know, people who are smoking and want to quit smoking. It's like they'll smoke 100 cigarettes before they go to give up. And I just realised, just put it out there and let the universe, let the God go. It will get out to people. And it's like through a podcast, you'll ask me this question. I get the opportunity and say, listen, if you think you have a fear of public speaking, first of all, that's a bit like saying go to Brazil and everybody there you can't engage with. It's over for you. So first and foremost, just go, okay, look, I'm having a few issues about speaking with groups of, I've got confidence. It's like confidence is something you can build. It's something within you, right? Just don't misdiagnose. And then whoever you go to for speaker training, always say to them, will you show me how to create my presentation? Will you show me how to deliver it? And will you show me how to monetize it? If you can do those three things, whatever issue or label you had about confidence when it comes to public speaking will just disappear.
Yeah. Harry, thanks for dropping by. Any final words for the audience?
Any final words? I always say, whenever we come to this bit, it comes back to how we started. It's my mission, my purpose is living on this brand of what I call doing good, doing great. You had a book about good to great. The first line in there, Jim Collins says, good is the enemy of great. I have a challenge with that, even though I agree that in terms of standards. I'm in the whole Tony Robbins world. Good, excellent, outstanding, right? The challenge I've got that is I see so many young people, I even see the big kids, even the people that made it, they're so hooked on being great and being successful in terms of what they achieve. And doing good is something that they'll do later. So for me, the message I would give to all of your people, doing good is not the enemy of great. So there's a difference between good as a standard and doing good. And I always say doing good just means whatever you're doing, you can still be doing good. You can still be, and I have 4 virtues, which I put in an acronym, HOME. And this is where I live my life. But this is where my secret of my success, so to speak. H, I live a life where I'm honouring, loving, respecting, unconditionally all living things. It's just a standard. But it doesn't require anything extra in my to-do list. So if I see the trees or the waves, I'm like, hey, me and you, I'll pick up litter. You don't get a lot of it on the Gold Coast, but there's some. I'll pick it up. Why? Because that's me having reverence for living things. O, do things for others expecting nothing in return. I live my life by that. M, manners. Speak to other human beings with kindness and compassion, especially the ones that are being unkind to you, because who you are. And an E, energy, the one we already spoke about, right? So I would say that's my definition of doing good. If you can do those things, it doesn't require any more time in your to-do list to honour living things. to do things for others, expect nothing in return, to speak to people kindly, and to do as God would do or the universe would do. It doesn't take anything extra. You can still be doing good while you're doing great. But my answer is this: you will never reach greatness unless you're doing good as well at the same time.
Harry, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
That's a wrap.
That was like 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, that was 2 minutes, yeah. Mate, thank you for that, Harry. That was beautiful, man. Your story is very inspiring. Very inspiring.
It's our story, bro. That's the thing. It's like so many of us are so connected, and I always say things ring true to each other.
Yeah.
That's like, and it's the bit I love. I was on a podcast with someone in Prague, and she started the podcast and said, in the podcast, you'll ask me questions. I was like, I didn't understand that. And then I realized that she wanted to say, imagine I'm on a podcast and you come in. I go, okay, so Adam, I'm going to ask you about this, but then you ask me, what is it I do? And I was thinking, I didn't get it. Because that then becomes a podcast is about, look, how can I promote myself to my people? I was like, but they're your people, bro. I'm like, to me, we add more value to people just by you asking the questions that you know what your people want.
Yeah.
And I knew that would be. I start my Gold Coast adventure with you, and then I got the Forbes guys on the Monday before I go, right?
Wow.
And it isn't. So it's not Michael I'm going to see. I'm going to see Sam, who does his stuff, and he's a kid that went through all these different things and stuff. Because I have a conversation like that, I'm like, this is us chilling, man. Literally, it's like it's how it's meant to be. So yeah, thank you. Oh, here's the water. I was wondering when the water was coming. It's right there. This for me?
It's all yours.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. There you go.
So
my mum taught me this. My mum said to me, if anyone offers you water, never say no. And I was like, that's a bit strange. Yeah. But then later on in life, I realised it was like someone offering you a gift of oxygen or water is, I say water my way. It's like it's a gift from God. And when I do all the speaking circuit, everyone sends you what you need, and people are like, oh, I want salmon, I want this, I want my greenery. You know what mine is? Water, plenty of it. And I don't even drink that much more. I say chai tea latte would be great. That's all I put, right? Wow. So yeah, trust me, water.
Did you cry?
I forgot you was here. You told me to pretend that you weren't there, so I was like...
It's the couch and the dress.
The only time do you know what it was when I said, imagine we go to... I went, Brazil. That's when I knew you was here. Because I was like, what country do I want to come up with? I was like, okay. At that moment, I remembered you were there. Nah, it was all good.
Are you excited for the event?
Yeah.
It's going to be cool, huh? I met Gabby at an event Ryan was emceeing at. So I met Ryan and Gabby at the same event.
Was that the
Jordan Belfort event ages ago, yeah.
Yeah.
I walked in the backstage and then I was leaving. I forgot my bag in the back room. I walked and then all of a sudden I see her. Hey.
See that?
I love your energy.
We weren't the same one. So we had just one tiny
different event, yeah.
Both of them.
And she just walked out. I saw her and I just said...
One day I walked there, he walked there, and then we met.
See, when I said you never planned that.
Never planned.
Your greatest return on investment, and I'm biased when I always said to people, I used to tell people, every stage I went on, like even if it was young people, whatever, I always say, like, I think I'm going to do it even on this one, right? I say to people, what's the difference between the people who get the A in maths or the wealthiest person on the planet who gets to create the assets and even keep them and do all this? What about the person with the greatest body? Okay, is it because it's intelligent? And we get to standards and habits and whatever. But especially young people, I go, is it okay we can all agree that we measure success different? I go, yeah. So your mum and dad will tell you what success is, your teachers will tell you, society will tell you, your friends will tell you. They go, yeah. So I said, you decide what success is to you. And today we're going to go through that. But I said before I do that, can I tell you what my number one success is? And I say to people, I don't give a shit, I'm going to tell you anyway. And then I say to them, my number one success in my life is my relationship with my wife. And then I look at the audience and I go, all the girls are like, ah. So the boys look at me like, what do you mean? What about the money? What about the footballers you work with? And I was like, no. And I always start like that because it's true. Because when you think about the shit that I went through, and I never told anyone, my wife, when I met her, she was my friend. And she was one of the first people that I started slipping a few bits and pieces out to. I was never, ever... I dated girls for maybe about 3 months. This is awful, right? It's still on, right? But it's all good. But it's fine. It's all good content. I share it with people. I tell her, I go, I used to be the boyfriend from hell by month 2 or 3 because I just wanted to get rid of them. Because they're going to start asking me, oh, man, this, that. So I'm suddenly dating. I had a rule that I wouldn't date
Was
people.
that conscious for you back then or unconscious?
Yeah. It was conscious. Because it was like, I never told anybody. So imagine you're like secretly taking drugs and you're dating someone. Eventually that person's going to find out you're taking drugs. So you're like, dude, and you're like, hide it or whatever, right? And I was dating some nice people. But I just thought, it's not known to hire. It's a waste of my time and energy and he's not going to do. And suddenly she's a good friend of mine, and I'd separated with someone, and she separated someone at the same time. We just went somewhere and watched a date. It wasn't a date for me. I found out later. But I remember, okay, I need to, and it's hard if it's a friend. So I'd be like, and she would say things like, we got into like month 4 or 5. I was like, shit. And then she would say things like, oh, you know, she's like, I really, really value, and I this whole thing about love you. She goes, you never say you love me. I said, she goes, how would you know? And I thought, this is a way to get rid of her. I said, well, if I love you like half as much as my mum. Most people, if I said that to, they'd be bastard, and then they'd like, no. Do you know what she said? Oh my God, I can't believe how much you love your mum. Guys aren't like that. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with this woman? And then it was like, and then it was, it all synchronised with like, you know, that whole sort of like Tony Robbins world and all the rest of it about what you... I was training a bunch of people about going and doing things like firewalks and how you like, you could do anything you want, right? And I said, the moment I did firewalk and so on, I was like, got to the other side, and I remember taking a bunch of people with me because I was the Mr. Motivator with them and telling them all, yes, you go. Because in my head, I was like, when you first see the fire, you're like, holy shit, the heat. And so I'm like, you go. And then now it's my turn. And it's like, I'm the one that's got the I'm thinking, well, I'm going to be the one that falls over and does this. And I'm really petrified now. And everybody's waiting for me. I get over there and I was like, in so much relief. And because at that point, I was winging it. Yeah. Right? I was just doing what I was doing. And no one taught me how to do what I do. But I remember I got to the other side. And people, I didn't tell too many people. I say to them, you know what? After going through processes like that, you'd have people saying, you need to add more zeros in what you're charging. You need to. I never think I could do that. And I did. But the biggest thing I did was I phoned the girl that I'd been with for about 7 months. And I said sorry to her. I said, I've been a bastard. I said, I was too afraid of committing to you. And I just said to her, sorry, whatever. I think within about 2-3 months after that, I overheard my mum. My wife's English, half Irish. And my mum was with a whole bunch of like ladies in the community and so on. And they were like, when are we going to get Harry mixed up and set up and get married and whatever, find him a nice Punjabi girl. And I heard my mum, I was on the stairs, an open plan kitchen. My mum said, I don't think Harry will find a Punjabi girl better than Kate. Right, because my mum had met Kate, I was dating her, right? And in my head, I thought, my mum thinks I'm going to marry this girl. I was like, holy shit. But now it's in my head. So I spoke to my mum and I said, listen, I really like Kate. And then she goes, I like Kate as well. She goes, save me the hassle of fixing her up. Remember like this? So I remember being 21 years old, I met Kate for maybe about, I knew her for a year or so before that. And now I'd been dating. And it was April 22nd, and it was like, I thought, okay. I used to go on little holidays. Where they would go dating holidays. We'd go to like these country cottages or hire a cottage. And we used to do that. And April 22nd was the day when we had our first date. So I knew we was going away on this week of April. And I thought, I'm going to propose to her on April 22nd while we go away. And I don't share this with too many people. It was like on the day when I proposed to her, she said, because it was April 22nd, she goes, oh, let's not get too many things. Don't buy anything. It's just our day at April's 22nd. And I remember I had a like camera, one of those big-ass cameras, and I cooked her a meal. But I had this camera because I was going to propose. And she said, let's not buy anything. And she bought me like something, I can't remember what it was, but I bought her this little teddy. It's like a little gorilla teddy because she liked gorillas. And I'd put a ring on the finger of the teddy,
Wow.
right? And I had this little box. I said, I got you something little. She goes, oh, I thought you weren't going to get anything. Little box. And in the box, it was just a piece of paper saying, will you marry me? And I'm filming it. And the only way I got through it was I was like, I want to film the food that I've laid out. Right? I've made this nice dinner. The camera on. I said, oh, look, I've got you a little something. She opened it. I was thinking it would be like, oh my God. She looks at it. She goes, what? What's that? You serious? And I thought, that didn't work for the camera. She read it. It just said, will you marry me? Because in her brain, she's like, what kind of proposal is that? Right? And also, what are you talking about? She wasn't expecting at all, right? So I said to I might need to re-record. Right? She went, oh. She goes, you serious? I said, yeah, do you like the gorilla? She went, yeah. I said, have a look at the gorilla. She started ringing. She was like, oh my God. Do you know what I said to her? She said, what? She said to me, what's happening? But how? What? Why? I said to her, I love you as much as my mum. And I know I'll love you more than my mum.
Wow, bro.
That's why I said to you, it's like, when I tell people about the first person that I shared stuff with and so on, I said that girl then became my wife. Right now, it's still, in the whole Tony Robbins world, I can guarantee you what the biggest challenge is with all the Tony Robbins trainers, the relationships.
Yeah.
Because to God, they said, my biggest passion and the sexiest thing is traveling around the world and being a Tony Robbins trainer. But you can't be a Tony Robbins trainer if you're not leaving your wife or whoever it is to go and do what you got to do. That's why I've never signed a contract to be a trainer, even though I'm a trainer. I paid for my own money to go to Tony's stuff when he was offering all the sponsorships and so on. But truth be, they had something called a non-compete contract. And I told them, I'm not signing a non-compete. I might be young, but I said I started when I was 16. So I told the reason I didn't sign his thing was non-compete contract. But the reason was I met a girl. It didn't sound too macho to go, I met a girl, that's why I'm turning down all of this. But like I said, when I look back and think what God's put in my way, there are things that, like, you guys got the perfect thing. I went to an event where Ryan was this event was where she was there, right? And you know, I don't know enough about you guys and what that is, but I know from the little bits that when you speak about it. And it's like, that's when you have to count your blessings and so on and all the rest of it and so on. And Ryan, same thing. I know Ryan's going through separation and all the rest of it. But I said to Ryan, I said, the biggest thing about you is who you are as a man, who you are as a father. Right? So like, what's his name, Kane? Jane, who's the other guy? Jeremy Milner. Jeremy Milner, who's come, he came yesterday, right? I was supposed to come yesterday, and then it was like, oh, we'd all synchronise what time we come. I was like, no. I came late because my daughter's on a show. She's like an actress. She just finished university, straight into Anne Juliet in the West End, doing a tour, and she was having a week off, and I was like, what happened here? I'm going to put it back a day so I can actually see my daughter. Came in, and then here was the thing. I said, right, tell Jeremy I'll meet today. He's going, no, I can't. He goes, I couldn't even meet him yesterday because I've got the boys. And I said, dude, you should have made him meet you with the boys and play Uno. Right? Because that's a very different thing, isn't it? Because when he finished his last event, you know Ryan well, right?
Yeah, I've known him for like 6 years.
So I'm like, at the last event, Ryan finished the event.
The boot camp?
That last one.
Yeah,
I think I was here early in February, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So we finished that one. I was running off to somewhere and whatever, and I had the last day. And one of my other clients, like Gerard, who owns Mouldman. So that's why I stay at his suite over there on Broadbeach and whatever. And I said, Ryan, we have a debrief the next day. He's like, man, I got the boys and stuff. I said, bring the boys. He brings the boys. You can see Ryan is knackered. He's exhausted because he had a thing. So you can see him dozing off or whatever. Because he goes, are you near the beach? I said, dude, I'm on the beach. Like, I'm on the beach. Like, you walk out my thing, there's the beach. Bring the boys. We never went to the beach. The boys and I were playing Uno, all the rest of it, doing this, that, and the other. And even like now, he's got this huge event. Yeah. And he's got the boys yesterday. And to me, that's what makes it such a high level
Yeah.
event, you know. And but I know that. And remember, it's like with Alicia, his wife, like she's Indian, you know, his wife's so it's like he had the whole little Indian thing and the connection. But people, their journeys will go wherever. But at the end of the day, it's who you are. And whether someone is in such a loving relationship or whether people are coming and they're partying, how they're doing it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes, right? It's like me at 20 years old, running around the world doing this, that, and the other. Oh, we did X, Y, Z for X thousands of kids here. And then you go home and my wife's like, cool, you got the kids for tomorrow. I'm going to go. I'm like, bang, no, none of this fanfare. She's the one that's kept me humble, had the humility. And there, some people never, like, I was running the personal development group for London that had all the Tony Robbins people. They would come there. I was the chair of it and so on. And my daughter spoke on that stage at 8 years old.
Wow.
Because she created something called Lead a Ship. And she was just creating this stuff. And when I said, I got back from San Diego and the Yes Group was saying, Harry, can you come and talk? We're talking on leadership. We've got 5 speakers. Please don't do the 8 steps to leadership. I said, no problem. I'll come and do my thing. And then Rosie goes, are you going to teach them my Lead a Ship? I said, yeah. She goes, I'll do it. And I'm like, my wife's like, no. And I was like, what? It's her thing? She said, yeah, Daddy, I'll go and do it. She gets on the stage, does her whole thing. And I remember opening up. I'm the chair. I open up and I go, we've got this speaker. The next speaker is someone I know. And the joke was, I'd been the chair of the London Yes Group for 2 years. And my wife has never turned up. Some of you don't even think my wife exists. And she's in the audience now. She ain't here to see me. She's here to see her daughter. Brought her on. And in our world, there's only a few people that actually met my wife. And she's like as if like she's God's angel that comes and does the little litmus test and go, we welcome that person into the space based on her energetic feminine energy about who's who. So when you look at how many trainers there are, Tony Robbins trainers, there are some people where we'll go and live in their house to come and do all the rest of it. But she's always made her home our sanctuary. Nothing to do with this, that, and the other. It's just she taught me that when I'm doing my thing, I'm not present for them. So we used to run all of our stuff in an island, you know, the Isle of Wight in the UK. We used to run all our programs there. And I'd book everything, and I'd book like a really nice big area for me, my wife, and the kids. They were younger. She'd come there. So I'd do my thing at the event, and I'd be the first one up and last one back, and then they'd be asleep. And within like first 3 years, my wife said, we've seen the whole of Isle of Wight. We literally have seen all of it. And she said, we're not going to come anymore. I was like, holy shit, what do you mean you're not coming anymore? But it's the best thing she said to me, because I knew I'd be like running there and then running back. So she's done well with separating. And I always say to people, like the kids will always, this is what I mean about kids. When you speak to kids, they will tell you straight. I say to people, the most important person on the planet is my wife. They go, she ain't here, dude. So, and I go, exactly. And that's when I teach people about connection. If my wife is the most important person on the planet and she's not here right now, the best thing I can do is make you the most important person. So while the two of you in the room right now, what God has taught me is, I don't know when my time to go. So in this moment, you two are the most important people. And then it taught me that I'm exercising the muscle of presence. And if I exercise my muscle, by the time I get home, I've got stronger muscles to be even more present for my wife. So cherish what you have, and share that publicly, but still keep the most magical moments private in that way. Because same as service. People see what I do publicly. They don't see what I do privately. And remember I sent you this thing about now what we're doing with the whole youth. That there's a reason for that being public, because you need so many people to be involved and do all this stuff. But it's like if you and I had time, if you was in Sydney and said, I'm coming to Sydney, I'm seeing you, and I wasn't doing anything else, and I was just coming for you and you are my client, I'll be, dude, I'm coming to your event, I'm going to help. Like, I'm meeting Ryan's team today to make sure the whole team are ready. Right? They're having kittens. They're like freaking out about this, that, the other. Yeah. I'll come to look at the whole thing. And then as a speaker, I said, I'll be your MC. So you don't have to worry about those things. I'll still speak. But as an MC, I'll be able to hold the whole event. Right? Wow. And I said, we'll do this, that, the other. But the reason I say that is if I came to any of my clients' event, I'd be saying to you, dude, if I'm coming to Sydney, what are we doing afterwards? You go, what do you mean? I said, what do you do? What do you do on Sundays or whatever? How do you do your impact? You go, oh, well, there's a homeless people and stuff that you do quietly. You don't, let's go do that. Let's go. Don't take any pictures. Don't tell anyone what we're doing. Let's just go and do that. Right? Because it will be another magical moment. Like you say, I went to that Jordan Belfort event and I met somebody. Right? We'll go and do that thing. And there's something else or someone or something in that place that will be something that we never planned. And it's in those moments where the greatest things have come from. More evidence than I could ever possibly wish for that's where it happens. And I had moments where I've asked people to come and do something in a contribution act or whatever, and they say, how much is that going to cost us? I say, nothing extra, but it's a condition of my contract. Literally, I'd be saying to you, I've got an event, can you come and help me? And then we do that. I said, brilliant. What are we doing afterwards? Nothing. I ain't coming. Just literally, why? And you know what's so cool? I realised afterwards when I went to India and Morgan Stanley were asking me to come and speak, they were like, we can't pay you $20,000, we've got a budget of $7,000. I said, no problem. But here's my condition. I want to meet the philanthropy team. They're, okay, cool. And I want 2 of your highest executives to come on I said to them, I want you to arrange a contribution program, whether it's with slums, whether it's this, whatever. I want you to arrange it, and I'm going to go and deliver something. But 2 of your executives got to come. They're like, what's that going to cost? Nothing. But I'm not coming. And the 2 executives was the director of operations for Morgan Stanley, who we became like this. Because what I didn't know was when I sat with the philanthropy team, I do it deliberately. I'm like, they have food at lunch. They bring the food, they all sit down, and I go, guys, I'm going to eat. If you guys go around one by one and just tell me, like, why are you on the philanthropy board? Knowing that I'm going to find out what it is at their core. And they all tell me my sister grew up with a disability and that's why I do this. And we went all the way around and there was 3 of my team here and the director of operations who my host sitting next to me. They'd all shared and I deliberately eat slowly so I'm letting them speak. And then we get there and she says, like, imagine you're the last person that shared and Sarika's sitting here. And she says, okay, I think it's time for a loo break and this, that and the other. Everybody knows that she hasn't shared.
Yeah.
So everybody goes out. I look at her. I'm just, you didn't share. And she said to me, I've never told anybody my reason. I never said anything. And she said, I'm a girl that grew up in the slums. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm already in awe that you're a female who's the director of operations of Morgan Stanley India, and you're telling me, and this was in my head. I went, okay. And she's crying a little bit and stuff. Well, my team walked back in. They could see she's crying, but they're used to this. It's like people go, like, imagine you were crying here. That guy walks in and goes, what happened to you, right? It's something written on my head. Tell me your shit, right? They could see her doing that. They just went and sat down. Everybody else came in. And I said to her, it's up to you whether you want to share. She goes, I don't think I will. So they all came back in and now they want to hear from me. And I said, has everybody shared? And my hand is like, here goes, everybody shared? And they're all looking at her. So I did look at her. And she went and told them all. Remember, these are all the executives, her peers and so on. And she said, the reason I'm on the philanthropy team, why it's really important to me, is I grew up as a girl, and they knew the exact place. And you could see them all go, right? And then from that moment, she and I became like brother and sister. And I was running a youth program where the theme was women's empowerment. We had 500 kids, 300 girls, 200 boys. So who do you think I invited to come and speak there? Oh, I've got fear of public speaking. Yeah, bullshit. Bring her in, bang. And I would never have, I wasn't expecting that. Her speaking at that event crushed it for everybody there. Not just the girls, all the boys, because they're going, oh my God, how's this woman director of operations? Then when she told them, because most of the kids that come to our events, we sponsor them all. So if they got me kids from like, international schools, and there's 500 people come, I insist that they're coming from places where people can't afford it. And you know where Morgan Stanley took us for that event that they did? The Sea Cadets. And I was like, the Sea Cadets were kids that come from a slum, and on a Sunday or wherever it is, they come on this massive naval ship that's out of action. And all the ex-admirals and captains, they teach them the standards of the thing. So they have a uniform, and they're teaching them some sort. I delivered my event to 500 kids that you could not tell they were from slums because they're in their white uniforms. And I had the admirals and all that. I delivered it on the deck of the ship. I mean, and you know what? This is where God plays so many games. How hard would it be for me to go to a school in India and go, hello, this guy's coming from the UK, he wants to come and deliver a talk? They're like, yeah, what? But Morgan Stanley's saying, we're bringing someone. They're like, oh, yes, please bring them. Right? I'm driving up to here. I go past that thing called Miami High. I did an event in the golf centre that is next to where the Olympics things was happening here. And I said to him, bring a bunch of kids. And they're like, oh, these kids can't come. They're from Miami High. It's quite a rough school. I went, they're my kids. They're the type of people. Yeah, but they can't come. I said, well, I'll put a coach on for them. Bring them all. And there was only 100 places that were like, oh, but 1 year groups like, I said, bring them all. Brought them all there. I served Miami High. And it was just the best. You had goth kids. You had this kid. You had kids that caused trouble. They won't even last for half an hour. I said, I got a whole day with them. Right? I said, I'll do a deal. If they don't last 20 minutes, you take them home. We give them lunch. They didn't want to leave by the end of the day. But this is what I'm saying is, you go out and do stuff like that, and you just watch what comes back. Yeah, light you up. See, that would have been another hour. I realise that's where time flies. But there you go. Thanks.
Hey,
It's been
thank
on.
you,
Anything you need, bro, I am there. I know in my own world I could say yes or no to whatever. If it's in my remit, whatever you do, I'd love to learn more what you guys
Thanks,
do.
brother.
And I don't just mean more what you do in this bit, what you do. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why I sent you that stuff where right now my asking people to commit 10 years to a program where we support kids for 10 years, God said to me, you got to be the person that invests 10 years in it. I was like, oh, what? I got so many things I want to do. Like, no, this is far bigger than, because I always say, if you're in the presence of God, people go, what do you ask for? I'm like, I ask, what can I do for you? But you have to be ready for how scary some of that stuff is. Yeah. Because it's this project is nearly 20 months in the making. I spent the first year banging my head about doing good. Sponsors weren't interested. Nobody was like, no, we want a Britain's Got Talent type thing, and kids get kicked out of competitions. I was like, ugh. And then I realised the speaking bit I was going to give the kids was an add-on. The original thing was take 150 kids from 150 countries and help them create a doing good project. Something that they want to do, not what the world says. If you're interested in getting girls into education or saving rabbits, I don't mind. If it's going to make the world a better place, I want to show you how to be great at doing good. And they were like, yeah. And I said, but on top of that, I'm going to train them as speakers. So the kids are going to go and speak at school. And then I realised that was the one that everybody's interested in, so I switched it. So now, literally, I'm taking applications from all, 30, we'll pick 30 nations, and we'll take one kid from those 30 nations from each 5 continents, and I will train them for a whole year, as what I already do in my group program for people. And I don't care what country they're from, as long as they speak English so I can train them. They can deliver it in Spanish, Swahili, it doesn't matter what they deliver it in. We'll train them, mentor them, look after them for 1 year, created something called World Stage that everybody's interested in. And then we have the regional championships and so on. But I'm interested in the kids. That's why I call it a challenge. Because the challenge is ours. I want kids that can't speak. Yeah. And I'll train you to speak. And I'll give you whatever gift that God's given you to share with other people. I'll make you at the highest standard of speaking. But you must speak to at least 1,000 kids in your school. And we put a condition that school has to endorse them. So they've got no worry about which school I'm speaking to, right? That's just going to cost you $0. Haven't even told them we're going to take all 150 into Abu Dhabi at the end in November for the awards, right? That's the mission in itself, to get people. But I know Abu Dhabi takes visas for anybody, right? Now everybody's interested because, it's the speaker competition and people are going to get kicked out. But they're not. Those kids we're going to look after for 10 years. Because guess what happens year 2? They become the ones with the projects. So you take a kid from Brazil who's coming on a speaker competition. We're working with them from a year and say, okay, now, when you come to Abu Dhabi just for the awards, there's 4 days before when we're creating your project. They'll become founders. So I just flipped it on its head, and I would never have got that if God hadn't put all of the challenges that had come up in the last 2 years. Now everyone's like, this is you, Harry. You're bringing world-class speakers and your brand as youth leadership, and that's what you do. And I'm like, yeah, of course. But my mind wasn't in, I never needed big brand sponsors before,
Yeah.
right? I was like, I'll give you eyeballs, but they need a story, they need this, they need that. And I was like, fine, get out of the way, work it out. So, yeah, that's what's happening now.
Man, that's very exciting, Harry.
Yeah. This thing, those exciting things when it comes to, like Ryan and that put this event, it's hard work.
Yeah.
You know? But I'm interested in those that hard work, it's not hard work. It means there's challenges coming,
Yeah.
but you anticipate it.
Yeah.
But when you think what's the impact, wow. Yeah, 100%. But cool, you at the event?
Yeah, of course.
Ah, wicked.
Are you going on the yacht as well on Saturday?
I'll be all the way through now. You know how, what's one of the first things I'm going to say is, like, when Ryan said, oh, we've got to speak. Then I said, Ryan, how many speakers you got coming? He got the Sharks. It's a 2-day event. I said, he's trying to squeeze time of those others and do, bro, don't do that, because then I'm going to come on and you're going to squeeze it. I said, no, let me do MC and give me like 5 minutes to introduce people, but I'll take 10, 15 minutes on each bit. He's like, that would be really helpful. You're going to be MC? I said, bro, because he's MCing with this Goggins thing. I said, I'll train you as MC while we're here, in person, live, so you see it. We co-host it. And then my wife goes, so you're not speaking? So my team, I said, of course I'm speaking. I said, I'm getting 15, 20 minutes times 5. Yeah. So I got more time than every other speaker. And I'm still going to add more value. But because it's my client's event, I'm going to be there anyway, sitting at the back. But now you'll see it, bang, 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 bang. So I get to do so much more. All I've got to do is give one thing that relates to speaking and sales in every little section, and still contain the event and so on. And but yeah, MC is another art form on its own if you do it properly. So many people, like, you run events. Okay, if you run events or you go to an event where you speak, they'll call an MC. The MC is just going to, like, they get a celebrity and, oh, you're going to introduce Adam, right? They did it to me once, one event, paying a lot of money, and I turned up in Wales, and they were like, yeah, you got 2 minutes to introduce this person. I said, I can't do that. Yeah, why not? They go, we had like the celebrity that was going to do it, but everyone said, you need to have Harrison. I said, you give me 2 minutes, what for? I said, how am I going to introduce Adam? And how am I going to get the audience ready for Adam? I said, you might as well call back this newsreader who's just going to say, Adam, welcome, Adam, to going to do this, welcome, that. Because what can you do in 2 minutes? They go, yeah, obviously you can have a little bit extra. I said, no, because then you're going to run over. And I said, if I'm going to be your MC, I'm going to make your event the greatest event. I said, I've got stakeholders, the audience, the speakers, you, me, the venue, your sponsors. You gave me 2 minutes to do that? I'm the wrong person. And then they bring these other guys in and they run over because this celebrity wants to come and talk about themselves and so on. So Ryan knows that you had to give me at least 5-10 minutes to introduce the person, but now I've got 15 minutes in between. Or I'll make everybody come back into the room. I'll do this. Every single speaker that's going to come on is going to feel the value of having someone that knows exactly who they are. Right? But organisers put a low value on the MC until they've seen an MC that does it the way they do. Because they'll pay for speakers, they'll do all the thing, and then they have an MC. It's usually one of their team. Oh, I'll do it. I've got an opportunity to step up. Why don't you let one of your team step up and take Daniel G session? Oh, can't do that. He's got to do that. No, right? That is a critical part if you want to. Because I've always had this thing about people saying they want to be number one or the best. And I say, no, I want to be the greatest. And I told people that there can be more than one greatest. They go, what do you mean? I said, I had an audience with thousands of kids, and I said, raise your hand. Well, we used to say, who's a great leader? And I said, people always, when I say what's a great leader, most people will say one of their parents or both. I asked this room, I said, be very honest, you don't have to. Right? Who here in the room feels they have the greatest parents? And a lot of people put their hands up. And I said, let me ask you a question. You see you think your parents are the greatest and you think your parents are the greatest. Let me ask you a question. Do your parents care whether they think that their parents are the greatest? No. And I said, can your parents be the greatest and their parents be the greatest at the same time? They go, yeah. I said, that's what it is. It's literally For you to be the greatest, it just means you are constantly improving and constantly doing this. And that's what I say is, people come to me and go, I want to be number one. I want to be India's number one this. I'm like, good luck. I'm not your guy. So this is why Ryan cannot run this event or even the previous ones without the Lornas, without all these others and all the rest of it. That's why I said, who's introducing me? Lorna. Because I'm not just going to turn up and go, hello, toilets are over there, this, that, and the other, because then I'm losing my value, right? Yeah. So there's a bunch of, so I'm getting Lorna ready today. She knew she's going to be ready because she's getting training from me to do it. But the point is, every bit is all about making that a great event. Yeah, for Ryan, it's like, hey, this is the biggest. I always think, I'll make sure we leave it at this, I always say to people, especially in India, it happens a lot with all of those guys there, right? They're always talking, like, Harry, meet this guy, he's got 5 million followers. And I flipped at one point, really late at night, and they wanted me to meet this up. And I was being polite, kind, and I said, I said, your name's Raj. You're Raj with 5 million followers, yes. And his wife was there, and there's a whole bunch of other people, all got their cameras and stuff on us, and we're at the Westin in Goa, like that great resort that's there, Robert Kiyosaki and all this were here. And I thought, man, everybody keeps telling me they're number one, how many followers? So I said, bro, you've got 5 million followers. Because that's all they told me about the guy. So you got 5 million followers. I said, okay, cool. How many people do you serve? And he went, I said, bro, how many people do you serve? He said, And they gave me this one guy who was like my waiter or butler or something, right? I don't drink alcohol. And he's standing at the bar, young kid, about 21, 22, Indian guy. He's in the uniform with the West End or whatever. He's everywhere I went, he was there, like, you want anything? He's standing there, and I learned later, he's this cocktail mixing wait. He's like a top guy at that, and I'm not. I can see him do it. Now I said, bro, come here, bro. Come here. He's thinking I want to drink. I said, bro, how many followers do you have? He goes, 221, sir. I said, bro, how many people do you serve? He said, what do you mean? I said, how many people come to the West End here? He goes, in a month or in a year? I said, a year. It's millions. I said, brilliant. How many people do you serve? He goes, millions, sir. I went back to the guy, how many people do you serve? He still didn't understand it. I said, is this your wife? He goes, yeah. I said, is she one of your followers? He still didn't get it. I said, bro, may I share a gift with you about followers and stuff? He goes, yes, please. Because the guy was genuinely interested, right? He had no ego himself, but he's in this thing. I said, bro, if you and your wife have people coming for dinner, and your followers, you have 10 followers coming to dinner at your house, you serve them food. Brilliant. I said, what if you have 100 people coming? What happens? He goes, I'm not sure. I said, bro, you need a bigger kitchen. I said, if you're going to serve 1 million people, you need a bigger kitchen. You and your wife are going to need to start coming up with more food, more pans. Yeah, if you have 1 million people, tell me you serve 1 million people. Right? Because if I said to you, you got extra followers, makes no difference. But if you've got an extra 10 people coming to your kitchen, your wife's going to be going, first of all, what do they eat? This, that, and the other, and so on. And now it might become hard work to people. This guy's got 221 followers, but he's serving people. I said, and he's behind me. And I said to him, he has been standing there waiting to serve me for the last 2 days. Right? He is doing more for me than other people are here. And all of these other speakers that are here are like, oh, Harry Singha's here, I'm going to pick up tips from him and so on. I said, you can learn more from this guy. When I left the Westin on the last day, all the speakers went, the staff from the kitchen and everybody and this kid turned up at the end and baked a cake for me and put bon voyage. Right? And it's on video, it's like me crying, and it's like, they said to me, oh, what you said for this guy, he was there, and then there's this other girl that was always waiting for me on the breakfast thing and stuff. They said, like, no one has ever come and acknowledged us and all the rest of it. And the managers, they said to the managers, first of all, can we do this for him? And they went, no. And then one of them said, he said, we are more leaders than the people that came here. And one of the other speakers was Indian. He said to the manager when they were asking, can you bring him? The guy, the Sandeep was going to bring me there. He said, look, sir, if you do this for him, it will be like one of the best gifts that we could give this guy because he values it. When that guy came, I didn't know any of that. So I go, who's the manager here? And he comes in, I brought him in, I said, listen, them being this great is down to you. And he was the one that nearly told him we don't do it. So, yeah, go always be the greatest. Right, forget all this being number one. Because number one, you're always competing with somebody else and all of that nonsense and stuff. And it's like, at the end of the day, you are the answerable to one thing and so on. And for you to be your greatest, you just have to be in your greatest energy. And we're humans, we're fallible. But every moment is another moment, and then you've got another day. The message I just sent to Lorna and everybody this morning, I said to her, I just need to start off with telling you how proud I am for everything you've already done now. Right? And I said, just start there. I said, here's how you can do this, here's how you do that. I said, it's already the greatest because it's been envisioned. There are things that we're not going to know, it'll go happen. But yeah, it's like it's done. You know, it's like it's already done. I mean, but it's like the only thing that people are going to get upset about is the expectations that they put on it. Yeah. Right? I'm here. I don't control what happens with airlines. I don't control what happens with Virgin Australia, whatever. They're crazy. They keep cancelling flights. But we're here. Everybody's here. It's all good. It'll be great. But I'm glad. I'll see you there as well. Are you going to be there?